Saint Nocturne University. Chapter 4. The readout did not sound like disaster at first. It sounded like absence. The dining hall lights cut out. The humming drink machines died. The enchanted skylight went black, losing its fake afternoon brightness and revealing only the storm-choked sky above. Every phone screen stayed lit for 3 seconds longer than it should have, white text from the shade room below glowing in hundreds of hands. Then those went dark too. For one full breath, Saint Nocturne University sat inside perfect silence. Then Ashborne screamed. Not one person. Not one place. The city. Ward sirens rose beyond the campus gates, low and mechanical at first, then twisting into something older underneath. The sound rolled over the rooftops, through the old neighborhoods, across the luxury student towers, down into the market district, along streets where humans stood in apartment windows wondering why the traffic lights had turned red and stayed red. Inside the dining hall, nobody moved. The red emergency lamps along the walls flickered once. Then again. Then stayed on, bathing everyone in a color that made vampires look too awake and everyone else look guilty. A freshman near the salad bar whispered, "Is this a drill?" Dre Coleman, still standing by the staff ward panel, looked at the dead screen, then at the sealed doors. "No," he said. "Drill's got budget." Nobody laughed. Nia Bellamy was still on the floor, one hand gripped around Lila's wrist, her eyes fixed on Camille St. Crowne. "You were there," Nia said again. This time the words landed harder because there was nowhere for them to go. No phones. No live stream. No instant comments turning trauma into jokes before the room even understood it. Just Nia's voice. Just Camille. Just everyone watching. Camille stood near the entrance, ivory coat untouched by the spilled drinks, broken glass, red rain, and panic gathering around her. The emergency light turned her diamond earrings dark, like drops of old blood. Her expression had recovered. That was almost worse. "Miss Bellamy," Camille said, soft as a blade wrapped in silk, "you are distressed." Nia's fingers tightened around Lila's wrist. Lila moved in front of her without thinking, even though she had no magic strong enough to stand between a vampire law student and anything she wanted. "She said you were there," Lila said. Camille looked at her. "And students say many things during magical shock." Brielle took one step forward. Her sunglasses were gone now. Her face was bare of performance, wet-eyed and furious. "You used my voice," Brielle said. Camille's gaze shifted to her. "Did I? You had Juno wear my face." Juno, standing near the Veilborn tables with one hand still against their cheek, flinched at the sound of their name. Camille did not even look at them. "I do not manage theater majors," she said. Juno's face twisted. For once, no joke came. "You paid through a third party," Juno said. "Or someone did." A vague confession from a shapeshifter who admits to impersonation. Camille sighed. How compelling. The words were calm, but her eyes had sharpened. She was counting exits, allies, angles. Blood court students in the left section shifted, unsure whether to move toward her or away from her. Malik stood between them and Camille, shoulders tense, crest ring dark on his finger. Dean Nightingale spoke before Malik could. "Enough," he said. The word pressed into the room, heavy with command. Several students lowered their eyes automatically. Professor Graves' cane struck the floor. The pressure split. Dean Nightingale turned his head toward her slowly. Professor Graves stared back. "Do not." Order is required. Order is not obedience with better posture. Someone in the back whispered, Professor Graves be reading him. Kiki, despite everything, murmured, and with a cane. Imani shot her a look. Kiki whispered, sorry. Coping. The dining hall doors rattled. Everyone froze. Something hit them from the other side. Once. Hard. A girl near the pasta station screamed. The doors rattled again. Howl House students rose to their feet, eyes flashing gold and amber. Blood Court students went still in that unnerving vampire way, listening beyond human hearing. Root Circle students lifted charms, rings, pencils, forks, anything they could turn into a focus. Veilborn students slid into shadows, under tables, onto chair backs, their bodies already negotiating with fear in different languages. Another hit. The doors held. Dre backed away from the ward panel. That is not campus security. Dean Nightingale's eyes moved to the doors. For the first time all night, he looked irritated by something he had not planned. Professor Graves turned to the students. No one opens those doors. A blood court boy near Camille scoffed. We don't even know what's out there. Imani looked at him. That's usually why people don't open doors. The boy opened his mouth. The door slammed inward again. This time, the wood cracked. Nasir Voss stepped toward the red words still spread across the floor. Root. Court. Howl. Veil. The bridge wakes when the houses break. Baptiste remembers. The letters had not dried. They moved in thin, vein-like paths between pieces of shattered glass. When the doors shook, the words pulsed like a heartbeat. Zora saw Nasir looking and hated that everyone else saw her being named beside him. She hated more that Auntie Maxine had gone silent. Maxine stood near the entrance, eyes on the letters, rain dripping from her coat onto the tile. She looked older in the red light. Not weak. Never that. But old in the way secrets aged people from the inside. Zora walked toward her. Seven caught her sleeve. Maybe don't approach the person who just announced she remembers the cursed floor. Zora pulled free. That's my aunt. That has historically not made things safer. Zora ignored him. Maxine did not look up when Zora reached her. You said you remember, Zora said. Maxine's jaw tightened. Auntie. The doors buckled again. The crack widened. Something scraped across the other side, long and slow, like claws dragging down wood. Maxine finally looked at Zora. There was a baby, she said. Zora's throat went dry. You mean Nasir? I mean there was more than one child planned. Zora did not understand the sentence at first. Then she did. Her body went cold. Across the room, Nasir heard it too. His head turned. Dean Nightingale said, Maxine. It was not loud. It did not need to be. The room changed around his voice. Auntie Maxine smiled without humor. Lucien. You are speaking from fear. I've been speaking from fear since before half these students had teeth. Professor Graves moved closer. Maxine. No, Maxine snapped. No more professor voice. No more dean voice. No more old people standing around while children get hunted by files and families. The doors shook again. This time, several students screamed because the crack revealed something outside. Not a face. A hand. Long, gray, wet-looking, with too many joints, pressing through the split in the wood. A root circle student lifted a candle and shouted a warding charm. The hand jerked back. The doors held. For now. Dre stared at the split. Anybody else seeing the haunted salad fingers? Unfortunately, Seven said. Dean Nightingale looked toward the doors. Read out apparitions. They are drawn to unstable wards and emotional charge. Kiki looked around the room. So us. They are drawn to us. Correct, Professor Graves said. That was not comforting. It was not meant to be. A low moan rolled through the dining hall walls. The building itself seemed to answer, old beams groaning, pipes knocking, floor tiles clicking beneath the red letters. Outside, Ashborne remained dark. Inside, the emergency lamps flickered. Brielle's throat tightened. She heard music under the sirens. Not real music. A memory of her own voice, copied and stretched into something wrong. The sound slid along her skin, looking for a way back in. She clapped both hands over her mouth. Kiki saw. Brielle. Brielle shook her head hard. Andre Voss, who had been unusually quiet near the blood court tables, stood. There's sound magic in the readout. Professor Graves looked at him. Explain. My speakers caught something last night. Faculty underlayer. Command structure. It's repeating through the dead wards. Dr. Amari, standing near the faculty table with one hand gripping a chair, went very still. Seven noticed. So did Zora. So did Lila. Professor Graves followed their eyes. Dr. Amari, she said. Amari's face remained composed, but her voice came out rougher than usual. It is not mine. Nobody relaxed. She swallowed once. But I know the structure. Dean Nightingale's expression sharpened. Celeste. Dr. Amari looked at him. The red light caught the faint mark around her ring finger, the invisible wedding mark that had exposed her at the mixer. It pulsed, then faded. She laughed softly. It sounded like exhaustion finally winning. Oh, don't start, she said. You do not get to say my name like I am the scandal and you are the institution. The dining hall inhaled. Professor Graves' eyebrows rose. A student whispered, Amari redemption arc. Another whispered back, girl, wait for evidence. Dr. Amari stepped into the aisle. The command structure was designed for controlled memory suppression after public supernatural exposure. Council approved. Faculty supervised. Emergency use only. Lila's voice cut in. Was Nia Bellamy an emergency? Amari looked at Nia. For the first time, guilt cracked through her composure. No, she said. Nia's face crumpled. Brielle closed her eyes. Camille said, careful, doctor. Amari turned on her. I am past careful. Camille's mouth tightened. Amari faced the room. A copied voice could carry the command if the subject trusted or recognized the speaker. A glamour could create the visual match. A memory charm could bury the event. Juno whispered, my face work. Brielle said, my voice. Nia's hand shook in Lila's. Amari nodded, each movement costing her. Yes. Lila raised her phone out of habit, then remembered it was dead. Who authorized it? The dining hall door slammed again. The crack split wider. A second gray hand forced its way through. Imani moved. She crossed the dining hall in 3 strides, grabbed a heavy wooden chair, and jammed it under the door handles. 2 Howl House students followed without waiting for orders. Then 3 more. Rome hesitated for half a second before grabbing a table with another freshman and dragging it forward. Taj stood near the back, watching. Kiki saw him. "So you just decorative now," she shouted. The whole room looked. Taj's face hardened. Imani did not turn around. "Leave him. He only helps when there's a camera." Howl House reacted before Taj could respond. Some students laughed. Some winced. A few who had been standing near Taj moved away. The readout had killed the phones. No live stream. No posts. No audience to edit the moment. Only action. Taj's power shrank in real time. He looked at the doors, at Imani, at the wolves helping her, and finally moved forward. Not gracefully. Not humbly. But he moved. Together, Howl House braced the dining hall doors as the thing outside struck again. The impact shoved them back an inch. Imani's claws emerged. "Root circle," she called, a little less staring, a little more spelling. Zora snapped out of her own shock. 7. "I know." The root circle students scattered into motion. Not organized. Never that. A spell scholar began drawing a geometric ward in spilled tea with the end of a fork, muttering theory under his breath. A root worker rolled her eyes, sprinkled salt from a stolen dining packet over it, and said, "Now it works." Delphine Hart pulled pearl pins from her hair and drove them into the floor at 4 points, creating a polished containment diamond. Micah Reed crawled under a table, opened his backpack, and started throwing charm bracelets to anyone with a pulse. "Emergency wards," Micah said. "Don't ask about the colors." A Veilborn boy held up a pink one. "Why is mine hot?" "Because you're lying to yourself." "About what?" "Not the time." Zora knelt near the red letters. "Auntie, if Baptiste remembers, what does it want from me?" Maxine's face twisted. "Blood remembers blood," she said. "But you do not owe every memory an invitation." "That is not an answer. It's the only one that keeps you standing." 7 crouched beside Zora, pulling a piece of chalk from his pocket. Zora looked at him. "Why do you have chalk? Why don't you?" He began sketching symbols around the red letters. Delphine's voice snapped from across the room. "That's a stabilizing lattice, not a containment seal." 7 did not look up. "It's both when done by someone talented. It will collapse if you cross the third line." "I wasn't going to." "You were." He paused. Then moved the chalk. Delphine smirked. Zora glanced between them. "Are y'all flirting over ward geometry?" Both said, "No." Micah, sliding past on his knees, said, "That means yes." Another impact hit the doors. The chair cracked. Imani snarled, shoulders shaking. Malik moved to help, but Camille caught his arm again. This time he yanked free so hard several blood court students saw it. "I said no," Camille hissed. Malik's eyes flashed dark red. "And I heard you." He crossed to the doors and pressed both hands to the wood beside Imani. For a second, wolf and vampire stood shoulder to shoulder in front of the dining hall doors while something hungry screamed outside. Imani cut him a look. "Don't make this symbolic." "I wasn't planning to." "Good." The thing hit again. Malik's fangs dropped. "Now it's symbolic," Kiki muttered. Dean Nightingale walked toward the doors. Professor Graves blocked him. "I can end this," he said. "Yes," she said. "That is what worries me." The red words on the floor pulsed brighter. The bridge wakes when the houses break. Nasir stared at them until the room faded around him. The sirens became distant. The screams became water. The red emergency lights became candles. For one moment, he was not in the dining hall. He was under the chapel again. No. Not under it. Before it. The lower chamber was new, marble bright, roots fresh along the walls. A woman in a white dress held a baby wrapped in red cloth. Her face was blurred, like memory refused to hurt him all at once. A younger Dean Nightingale stood beside a table covered in papers. Camille was there too, not younger, not older, exactly the same in the unsettling way vampires wore time when they were wealthy enough to ignore it. A root circle woman with gold beads around her wrists shouted, "This was not the agreement." Nightingale said, "The agreement changed when the first child failed." The woman holding the baby sobbed. Another cry came from somewhere behind Nasir. A second baby. Hidden. The vision snapped. Nasir staggered. Zora caught him by the arm before he fell. The contact burned through both of them. Zora saw it too. Not as clearly. A red cloth. Gold beads. A woman screaming. A baby being carried away through smoke. Maxine younger, crying, blood on her sleeve, whispering, "Not hers. You can't have hers." Zora let go as if shocked. Nasir stared at her. "You saw that," he said. Zora's voice barely worked. "Who was she?" Maxine answered behind them. "Your mother," she said to Nasir. Then, after a terrible pause, she looked at Zora. "And your grandmother?" Zora stepped back. "No." Maxine's face broke in a way Zora had never seen before. "No," Zora said again, louder. "Do not do that. Do not drop some cryptic bloodline mess in the middle of a blackout with monsters at the door like that's normal." Seven lifted one finger. "For the record, I agree with Zora's pacing critique." Zora ignored him. "My grandmother died before I was born." "She died after you were born," Maxine said. "You were told different because living people needed clean stories." Zora's eyes filled, but her voice sharpened. "Did my mother know?" Maxine did not answer. That was answer enough. The dining hall disappeared from Zora's awareness for one dangerous second. All she saw was every family dinner, every avoided question, every later, baby, every old photo without names, every time Auntie Maxine changed the subject when Zora asked why Baptiste women never stayed in one place too long. Seven's hand hovered near her shoulder. He did not touch her. Smart. Across the room, Lila helped Nia sit against an overturned table. Nia's breathing had steadied, but her eyes stayed locked on Camille. "She told them I was compatible," Nia whispered. Lila crouched in front of her. "Compatible with what?" Nia looked down at her hands. The yellow room had chairs. 3 of them. They sat me down and asked about my dreams. I thought it was a donor interview. Lila's stomach turned. A donor interview. Saint Nocturne held dozens every semester, scholarship panels, legacy sponsorships, private mentorship meetings. Students went because tuition was high and opportunity always had a door. The idea that one of those doors had opened into memory suppression made the whole institution feel rotten. "Who was there?" Lila asked. Nia's voice trembled. "Camille. A professor I didn't know. Someone behind a screen. And..." She looked toward Brielle. Brielle stood frozen. Nia swallowed. "And you?" But not you. Juno closed their eyes. Lila turned to Juno. Who hired you? Juno's voice was small. The request came through a student arts patron portal. Anonymous donor. Do you still have it? My phone's dead. Dre, who had moved near them, reached into his apron and pulled out a small spiral notepad. Everyone stared at him. He shrugged. Technology is arrogant. Lila almost laughed, then did not. Juno gave him the username from memory. Dre wrote it down. Brielle stared at the notepad. Why are you helping? Dre looked around the dining hall, at the sealed doors, the red rain, the dean, the students with broken trust all over their faces. Because somebody needs to write things down before the school edits the room. At the doors, Howl House was losing ground. The thing outside was no longer alone. Scraping sounds multiplied. Hands pushed through cracks. Something whispered names in voices borrowed from loved ones. Rome, a voice outside called sweetly. Baby, open up. Rome froze. Imani turned. Do not listen. His eyes filled. That sounded like my mama. It knows. The voice came again. Rome, I'm scared. Rome took one step toward the door. Taj grabbed him by the back of his shirt and yanked him away. Rome stumbled. Let go. Taj shook him once. Your mama is in South DeKalb with bad knees and a ring camera. That is not her. Rome blinked. Taj pushed him toward Kiki. Stay there before you get eaten by a voicemail. Kiki looked at Taj, surprised despite herself. Taj pointed at her. Don't. I didn't say anything. Your face did. The doors cracked wider. One of the gray hands forced through up to the elbow, fingers opening toward Malik's throat. Malik grabbed the wrist. His skin hissed where it touched the thing. He did not let go. Imani sliced through the arm with one clawed hand. The severed part hit the floor, dissolved into red smoke, and left behind the smell of wet pennies and old flowers. A wave of nausea moved through the room. Kiki gagged. Absolutely not. That smell has a backstory? Professor Graves raised her cane and began speaking in a language older than the university. The floor answered. Brass lines, hidden beneath decades of polish and spill juice, lit across the dining hall. They formed a wide circle around the room, then 4 smaller circles beneath each clique's banner. Blood Court. Howl House. Root Circle. Veilborn. The red letters in the center stretched toward each circle. Dean Nightingale's face went pale. Stop, he said. Professor Graves did not. The circles brightened. The dining hall trembled. Students stumbled as the floor shifted beneath them, revealing that the dining hall had once been something else. Not a cafeteria. Not even a hall. A ritual chamber with tables placed over its bones. The banners above them began to bleed color down the walls. Blood Court red. Howl House silver. Root Circle green gold. Veilborn violet black. The thing outside screamed. Professor Graves' voice rose. Every student to your house circle, she commanded. No one moved. Because at Saint Nocturne, asking students to sort by faction during a political crisis was like throwing gasoline into a family reunion. A Veilborn girl shouted, "What if we don't claim one?" Professor Graves snapped, "Then stand where your body feels least lied to." That worked better. Students moved. Not neatly. Not completely. Some hesitated between circles. Some crossed lines and looked shocked when nothing killed them. A scholarship root circle boy stood halfway between Root and Veilborn, crying quietly as the floor accepted both feet. A blood court girl took off her family crest and joined Howl House beside her girlfriend. Two Howl House freshmen stood in root circle because apparently they had been hiding charm work from their pack all semester. Taj saw them and looked offended. Kiki said, "Now is not the time to be homophobic toward hobbies." "I wasn't. You looked like it." Malik stayed at the door. Imani stayed beside him. Zora stayed near Nasir. Brielle did not move at all. Her circle should have been Veilborn. She knew that. Her body knew that. But her voice had been used to hurt someone, and every step toward that banner felt like asking to be believed before she deserved it. Nia saw her hesitation. For 1 second, their eyes met. Then Nia looked away. That hurt worse than accusation. Juno walked past Brielle into the Veilborn circle and left a space open. Brielle did not take it. Andre stepped into blood court, then immediately stepped halfway out, 1 foot in Veilborn. Camille stared at him. He smiled without joy. Music travels. Micah shouted from root circle, "Can we do identity crises later? The door is moist." Professor Graves lifted both hands. "The readout is feeding on fracture," she said. "Not disagreement. Fracture. Secrets turned into weapons. Bonds broken without naming the wound. We seal this room by naming what was used." Dean Nightingale's voice went sharp. "Sanaa, this is forbidden." She looked at him. Yes. The room understood then. Forbidden did not always mean evil. Sometimes it meant the people in power hated what it could reveal. Professor Graves turned to Nia. "Miss Bellamy." Nia shook her head immediately. "No." Lila knelt beside her. "You do not have to." Professor Graves' face softened. "You do not need to describe what harmed you. Only name what was taken." The room held still. Nia's lips trembled. Brielle looked at the floor. Camille watched with eyes like polished stone. Nia said, "My memory." The root circle flared. Professor Graves nodded. "And what else?" Nia took a shaky breath. "My choice." The Veilborn circle flared. Brielle covered her mouth with one hand. The doors rattled violently, but the crack stopped widening. Professor Graves turned. "Mr. Price." Juno's chin lifted. "What was used?" Juno swallowed. "My face." "And what else?" "My need to be wanted in rooms that only wanted my usefulness." The Veilborn circle brightened so hard the violet light washed over the ceiling. Brielle looked at them, anger still there, but complicated now. Professor Graves turned to Brielle. Brielle's face went blank. "No," she said. Professor Graves did not push. Nia spoke, barely above a whisper. "Please." That one word almost broke her. Brielle stepped forward. The whole dining hall watched. She hated them for it. Hated the pity. Hated the hunger. Hated the way scandal made an audience out of suffering and called it concern. "My voice," she said. The sound came out ragged. Professor Graves nodded. "And what else?" Brielle closed her eyes. "My vanity," she said. "My contracts. My need to be seen so bad I stopped asking who was watching." The Veilborn circle pulsed. The doors stopped shaking for 3 seconds. Then the thing outside shrieked and hit again, harder than before. Professor Graves turned to blood court. "Miss St. Crowne." Camille lifted her chin. No. The room chilled. Professor Graves' voice remained steady. What was used? Camille smiled. You have mistaken confession for jurisdiction. Malik turned from the door. Camille. She looked at him. Do not perform morality because your crush is watching. Zora's eyes narrowed. Your family really can't insult people without dragging property law into it. Camille ignored her. Malik stepped closer. Nia named you. Nia remembered distress. You arranged the auction. To test charm pathways. The admission hit the room like thrown glass. Serafina, standing near the blood court edge, whispered, You used my name too. Camille glanced at her. Your proximity was convenient. Serafina's face hardened. Malik's voice dropped. What was used? Camille looked bored. Blood. The blood court circle flared red. Professor Graves said, And what else? Camille's eyes moved to Dean Nightingale. For the first time, he looked away. Camille smiled slowly. There it is, she said. Camille, Lucienne warned. No, Dean. Since we are naming wounds. She turned back to the room. Lineage, she said. Dead. Hunger. Shame. The desperate little fear all old families carry that their children will be ordinary if we stop arranging their futures before they can speak. The blood court circle burned brighter. The door crack shrank by an inch. Malik looked at Camille like he hated her and understood her, which was worse. Professor Graves turned to Howl House. Imani did not wait. Loyalty, she said. The silver circle lit under the Howl banner. And what else? Professor Graves asked. Imani looked at Taj. Taj looked ready to sneer, then stopped. Maybe because the doors were still cracking. Maybe because Rome was watching him like a boy trying to decide whether older meant right. Imani said, fear of looking weak. The Howl circle pulsed. Taj exhaled through his nose. Then, quietly enough that only those near him heard, he said, inheritance. The silver light flashed again. Kiki blinked. Was that growth or survival? Taj muttered, both. Professor Graves looked toward root circle. Zora knew before anyone said her name. The red letters had already named her. She stepped into the center. 7 reached for her, then stopped. Zora looked at the root circle students, the spell scholars with their rules, the root workers with their spirits, the legacy kids with their clean family trees, the scholarship students with their clenched jaws, Delphine heart watching like she wanted Zora to fail beautifully. Professor Graves said, Ms. Baptiste. Zora's mouth felt dry. What was used? Professor Graves asked. Zora looked at Auntie Maxine. Maxine's eyes shone. Zora said, family. The root circle flared green gold. The force of it nearly knocked her back. 7 moved behind her without touching. Professor Graves' voice softened. And what else? Zora thought of the vision. Her grandmother. Nasir's mother. A baby hidden. A lie given as inheritance. She thought of every secret she had collected from other people, how safe it made her feel, how powerful. She thought of Talia crying outside their suite. Caleb's bracelet. Malik's silence. 7's forged destiny. Brielle's hidden page. She swallowed. My habit of keeping people's secrets like weapons so nobody can aim mine first. The root circle light rose to the ceiling. The doors groaned. The gray hands withdrew. A sound outside wailed, furious and thinning. Professor Graves turned at last to Nasir. The room did not. Not immediately. People had learned, maybe too late, that staring at him like a prophecy was part of the problem. Nasir stepped forward anyway. The red letters on the floor curled toward his shoes. Dean Nightingale said, "Nasir, you do not need to participate." Nasir laughed once. It was quiet and empty. "That's the first choice you've offered me." Dean Nightingale's face tightened. Nasir looked at the 4 circles. Blood Court. Howl House. Root Circle. Veilborn. Then at the center, where the red words waited. Professor Graves said, "What was used?" Nasir's jaw worked. "My blood," he said. All 4 circles lit. The entire dining hall shook. Students cried out. The doors bowed outward now, as if something inside the room had become stronger than whatever waited outside. Professor Graves held her ground. "And what else?" Nasir's eyes moved from Dean Nightingale to Camille to Maxine to Zora. "My life before I knew it was mine." The center of the floor split open. Not wide. Just a thin crack, red light spilling through. The doors slammed shut completely. The cracks sealed. The gray hands vanished. The sirens outside faded from unbearable to distant. The emergency lamp stopped flickering. For 1 second, everyone thought it was over. Then the dining hall floor began to show memories. Not all at once. Not everyone's. Only the ones tied to the names spoken. Images rose from the red crack like smoke turned into film. A blood court auction room, elegant and candlelit. Caleb laughing nervously while signing for a bracelet he did not understand. Camille watching from a balcony above, marking his name on a list. A yellow room that should not have existed upstairs in the courtyard hall. Nia sitting in a chair. Juno entering with Brielle's face. Brielle's copied voice saying Nia was needed. Camille standing near the window. Dr. Amari's memory charm design glowing on the table, modified by someone else's hand. Dr. Amari covered her mouth. "That is not my casting," she whispered. "That's my research, but not my casting." Lila stared at her. "You published it?" "I submitted it to the Council Ethics Archive." Seven said, "Which means someone with council access pulled it." Dean Nightingale said nothing. Another image. A younger Maxine running through the market district at night, carrying a bundle wrapped in dark cloth. Professor Graves, younger too, standing at a crossroads, holding back 3 shadowed figures with a circle of salt and blood. A woman with Zora's eyes screaming from the back seat of a car. A baby crying somewhere unseen. Zora staggered. Seven caught her this time. She let him. Another image. The lower chapel chamber. A baby wrapped in red. A second child hidden beneath the ritual table in a basket lined with roots. Dean Nightingale younger, face tense. A woman with gold beads snarling, "You will not make bridges out of babies." Then the smoke twisted. The woman's face cleared. Zora stopped breathing. Not her grandmother. Her mother. Alive in the memory. Younger. Terrified. Fierce. Zora whispered, "Mom." Maxine made a broken sound. The image shifted again. Dean Nightingale signed a document. Beside his signature were 4 others. Voss. Baptiste. St. Crowne. Graves. The final signature burned brighter than the rest. Nightingale. Professor Graves went still. The room turned toward her. Seven slowly released Zora's arm. Professor, Delphine said, voice quiet with satisfaction and fear. Your name is on the pact. Professor Graves' face looked carved from stone. Yes, she said. The word broke something. Not the floor. Trust. Students began talking at once. Professor Graves lifted her cane, but no one quieted this time. Not fully. You signed it? Zora said. Her voice cut through the room. Professor Graves looked at her. I signed to alter it? That sounds like something guilty people say with better vocabulary. Maxine stepped between them. Zora. Zora backed away from both of them. No. Don't. Do not ante me right now. Nasir stared at Professor Graves too. You knew what I was. I knew what they tried to make, Graves said. And you taught here. To watch the door. Looks like the door opened. That landed hard enough to make Professor Graves lower her eyes. Dean Nightingale used the moment. He stepped toward the red crack. This is precisely why uncontrolled revelation is dangerous. Half-truths without context turn students into mobs. Lila snapped, context is what people ask for when the receipt looks bad. Dre, still holding his notepad, muttered, put that on a shirt. Camille looked at Dean Nightingale. You have lost the room. His eyes flashed. For half a second, the ancient thing beneath his polished Dean exterior showed itself. Not monstrous. Worse. Patient. A man who had watched generations panic and knew panic always got tired before power did. Then the dining hall ceiling groaned. The enchanted skylight flickered back on, not with daylight but with an image of Ashborne from above. The entire city was dark except for 4 glowing points. Saint Nocturne University. The Ashborne Night Market District. The old Howl House Stadium in the South Ward. The Blood Court Donor Tower downtown. Red lines connected them. A map. No, Zora realized. A circuit. 7 whispered, the readout isn't citywide failure. Professor Graves looked up, horror finally entering her face. It's a transfer, she said. Dean Nightingale closed his eyes. Maxine whispered, Lucien, what did you do? The skylight image zoomed toward the market district. Auntie Maxine's shop appeared in red outline. Across the street, the boarded-up barbershop flashed with Blood Court's development mark. Then the words appeared across the skylight. Founder Seal 1, Market Route. Maxine's face drained. She turned toward the dining hall doors. They opened by themselves. Beyond them, campus was dark and rain-soaked, every lamp glowing red. Students saw figures moving across the quad, security, faculty, maybe apparitions, maybe worse. In the distance, the chapel bell rang once. Professor Graves said, no one leaves alone. Maxine was already moving. Zora followed. 7 followed her. Malik looked at Camille, then at Serafina, then at Dean Nightingale. For once, he did not ask permission from any of them. He followed Zora. Imani turned to Howl House. Anybody coming, move. Kiki grabbed Rome by the collar. You are now under anti-supervision. I'm 18. Then be 18 quietly. Taj hesitated, then came to. Brielle looked at Nia. Nia would not meet her eyes. Juno stepped toward the door. Brielle grabbed their sleeve. You're coming, she said. Juno looked at her hand. I thought you hated me. I do. Walk faster. Lila looked at Dre. You off shift? Dre glanced at the shattered dining hall, the dead drink station, the red rain, and his manager hiding behind the dessert counter. I better be. They moved into the storm as a broken crowd, not united, not healed, not even close. Above them, the skylight message remained visible through the dining hall windows. Founder Seal 1, Market Route. At the edge of campus, the iron gates opened before anyone touched them. The city beyond was dark. And somewhere in Ashbourne's old market district, every candle in Maxine's shop lit itself at once.